Whether you're in it for research or for profit, archaeology is one of the most interesting careers in the galaxy. In this video, let's take a look at some of the best ships to fulfill its unique requirements. I'm Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and these are the best ships for treasure hunters in Star Wars. YV-560. First up is the Corellian Engineering Corporation YV-560 light freighter. We recently discussed the YV-560's potential as a spy ship, and it would be useful to treasure hunters for the same reasons. It was by and large a standard CEC light freighter, which are widely considered the most versatile civilian ships on the market. But it also had the added bonus of an impressive array of sensors that could help you find archaeological sites and other points of interest on a planet's surface. It was designed to survey planets from orbit and had long-range sensors and a powerful scientific computer to do so. Not only could you find things with the sensors, but you could likely use the computer in conjunction with other scientific instruments you take with you to study the artifacts you find. The YV-560 was also noteworthy for being fairly durable, with securely compartmentalized cargo bays that could be individually sealed in case of hull breaches to protect the rest of the ship. I would say you aren't likely to need this feature, but treasure hunting can be very competitive, and you never know who may be lurking in the shadows of space waiting to ambush you and steal your findings for themselves. Combined with the YV-560's fairly good weapons, this feature would keep you and your cargo relatively safe from pirates as you leave a completed expedition. The YV-560 measured 30.1 meters long by 22.4 meters wide and 5.5 meters tall. It had a Class 2 hyperdrive, and its top atmospheric speed was probably around 850 kilometers per hour, like several other CEC freighters. It was armed with 2 twin medium laser cannon turrets, and it required 1 pilot and 1 co-pilot or engineer. It could also carry 5 passengers, 40 tons of cargo, and 8 months of consumables for extended missions. Finally, it came in at a cost of 120,000 credits new, or probably around 65,000 used. T-6 Shuttle. Another great ship for treasure hunters would be the Slayn Korpil T-6 Shuttle. These ships could honestly be considered treasures themselves, as they were primarily used by the Jedi Order, and many of them were likely destroyed by the Empire in their ongoing Jedi Purge. However, many of them ended up in private ownership anyway, and would make a fantastic transport for legitimate archaeologists and wealth-seeking treasure hunters alike. Despite its relatively small size, the T-6 had a deceptively large amount of internal space, with 1 large central deck and tiny upper and lower decks. This would give you plenty of room for tools, supplies, recovered artifacts, and more, while still leaving you with a modest but comfortable living space. The living space had several small sleeping bunks for its crew and passengers, and a large main room with a retractable table and holo projector. While the Jedi used this space for lightsaber training and diplomatic conferences, it could be very useful for archaeology as well. After surveying the site, you could use the table to plan your expedition, and then stow it in the floor afterward to make more room for storage. The ship also had a workshop on its lower deck, or at least a room that could be used as one. This would be a good space to study artifacts in, or just use as more storage. The T-6 measured 22.8 meters long by about 12 meters wide and 32 meters tall in flight. It had a top speed of 1,200 kilometers per hour and a Class 1 hyperdrive. The ship required a pilot and co-pilot, but could be flown by a solo pilot instead if necessary. It could probably carry around 10 passengers, 1 to 10 tons of cargo, and 3 weeks of consumables. Its price was unknown, but probably somewhere around 150,000 credits new, or 60,000 used. E-9 Explorer. Next up is the Loronar Corporation E-9 Explorer class armed long-range scout vessel. This was a transport ship intended for exploration, and would be perfect for treasure hunting as well. It was initially built as a generic freighter, but after some legal issues it was reclassified as an exploration vessel to satisfy the Empire's Bureau of Ships and Services. The ship was also given an upgraded sensor package and a few other adjustments to fit its new role. Whether you consider the E-9 a freighter or a scout vessel, it had some of the best amenities of any non-luxury civilian vessel in the galaxy. It was designed to keep its crew comfortable and happy for long voyages, and for this reason it was equipped with decent crew quarters, and a lounge with an autochef system, hologame table, and other entertainment devices. This made it popular with merchants and civilians looking for a relatively cheap yacht, but it also had features for explorers and treasure hunters too. The aforementioned sensors, for example, would be great for searching a planet or moon for treasure, and its cargo bay had space and an elevator for a small land speeder to get around when you find it. The E-9 measured 65 meters long by about 40 meters wide and 15 meters tall. It had a Class 1 hyperdrive and a top atmospheric speed of 950 km per hour. The ship was armed with 2 laser cannon turrets and required 4 crew. It could also carry 4 passengers, 2 years of consumables, and an unknown amount of cargo. It's a similar size to the Gozanti cruiser, so it could probably carry a similar amount of cargo, around 75 tons. Its price was unknown as well, perhaps 200,000 credits new or 100,000 used. S-161. For treasure hunters looking to really travel in style, the Latero Spaceworks S-161 Stinger XL yacht would be a phenomenal choice. The ship was relatively large and had a comfortable interior for extended expeditions. It was outfitted with a decent-sized living room with a holo projector for mission planning, a small kitchen, sleeping quarters for 4, an engineering area, and a small cargo hold. Its cargo capacity may not have been as high as the other ships on this list due to its narrow frame, but a large amount of storage may not be necessary for all treasure hunting missions. The complex design of the Stinger's rotating wing mechanism may be a drawback, likely requiring significant maintenance times and costs compared to other similar vessels. While it is far from the only ship to have moving parts, the S-161 is significantly more complicated with a multi-stage folding action, rotating the lower engine into position and then moving the upper wing back to vertical to reveal the ship's landing gear doors. However, other aspects of its engineering may make up for this, at least to some. Its landing gear were extremely large and rugged for a yacht of its caliber, making it possible to land on much more difficult terrain than similar vessels could. Muddy or sandy ground that could trap a ship with more decorative landing gear would be no problem for the Stinger XL. Furthermore, the ship's cockpit was designed to give pilots an incredible field of view in front, to the sides, and below the craft while landing or flying at low altitudes, making it good for scanning an area in search of ancient ruins that may not be noticeable on sensors. The S-161 measured roughly 50 meters long by 12 meters wide and 56 meters tall. It probably had a Class 1 hyperdrive and a top atmospheric speed of around 950 km per hour. It had seating for 2 pilots, but only required 1 for normal flight. The ship was armed with 2 laser cannons, and could carry at least 4 passengers and probably 10 to 15 tons of cargo and 3 months of consumables. Given its size, complexity, and relatively luxurious furnishings, the Stinger probably cost somewhere around 200,000 credits new or 100,000 used. Polan-717. And finally, one of the best ships for treasure hunters in Star Wars is the Lantillian shipwright's Polan-717 transport. Like the T-6 shuttle, this was a ship used by the Jedi Order, though it was long retired by the time of Order 66. We don't know if the Polan was available for sale to the public, but I don't see any reason why it couldn't be. They were also likely sold off by the Jedi after they were replaced by something else, so they would have been available to civilians eventually either way. Their historic nature would make them thematically appropriate for a team of archaeologists or treasure hunters, but they also had several features that would make them useful for objective reasons as well. The Polan may have been a somewhat inconvenient vessel to use due to its use of an external hyperdrive module it must dock to jump to light speed, or detach from to land, but it had plenty of upsides as well. The ship was quite large and durable, seemed to be fairly fast, and had storage for quite a bit of useful equipment. For starters, it had a ventral hangar for a small escape craft, a P-717 Finch Dart. This was a starfighter-sized vessel that could be used to flee the Polan in an emergency, scout out locations without taking the main ship there, and other various tasks. It doesn't seem to have been equipped with weapons or a hyperdrive, so its usefulness is limited, but you could probably replace it with a similarly sized fighter craft if you need those for your mission. One of the things the Jedi used the Polan for was exploration, and as such, the ship also had other features that would be useful to treasure hunters. It was capable of carrying a large amount of ground equipment that Jedi used to set up a home base for their exploratory duties. Among the Polan's ground equipment stores were several Aerotech Hussar 210 AVA speeder bikes, which seemed to be a pretty decent speeder bike that you could use to get around your archaeological sites. These probably weren't included with the ship as sold by Lantillian shipwrights, but when the Jedi eventually retired their fleet of Polans, they may have sold them off with the equipment aboard to make them a bit more appealing. Even if not, though, you could still fill the ship with your own equipment and speeder bikes. Finally, the ship was weirdly well armed for a Jedi vessel, with 4 cannons and a torpedo launcher. Most Jedi ships tended to be unarmed or very lightly armed, but perhaps this one was given more weapons to compensate for its vulnerability with the hyperdrive cradle, or to protect it from unknown threats on expeditions. And naturally, these weapons could protect you from pirates or rival treasure hunters looking to steal the results of your hard work as well. The Polan-717 measured 78.56 meters long by 58.14 meters wide and 20.45 meters tall with its hyperdrive module equipped, or roughly 68 meters long by 36 meters wide and 18.5 meters tall without. It had a top atmospheric speed of 1,050 kilometers per hour, and it likely had a Class 1 or 2 hyperdrive. It is also possible that the hyperdrive cradle could be swapped out with different versions for different roles, which could give it different speed options. It was armed with 2 forward laser cannons, 2 light blaster cannons, and 1 ordnance launcher. I would also be willing to bet that it has a tractor beam projector to help recover the Finch Dart escape craft as well, unless Master Sol was straight up going to kill May when she stole the smaller ship to flee. Wouldn't surprise me given his other actions in the series, but it does seem counterintuitive. The Polan required a crew of 4 for optimal operations, but could be flown by just 1 if necessary. It had accommodations for around 8 passengers in addition to the crew, and I would imagine it had storage for around 20 tons of cargo and 3 to 6 months of consumables. The ship's price is unknown, but I would imagine it was probably around 500,000 credits new or 200,000 used, depending on the equipment included. And those are 5 more of the best ships for treasure hunters in Star Wars. Please let me know which one you would choose or what you'd have selected instead in the comments, and check out the first installment for 5 more recommendations. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. RFC out.